Jack and the Beanstalk. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled at the edge of a great forest, there lived a poor widow and her son Jack. They had nothing in the world except a small cottage and one cow named Milky White. Every day, the cow gave them fresh milk, which they sold at the market to buy food. But one terrible morning, Milky White stopped giving milk. Jack's mother wrung her hands in despair. "We have no choice," she said with a heavy heart. "You must take the cow to market tomorrow and sell her. We need the money to survive." The next day, Jack set off down the dusty road, leading Milky White by a rope. He hadn't gone far when he met a strange old man with twinkling eyes and a crooked smile. "Good morning, young man," said the stranger. "Where are you off to with that fine cow?" "I'm taking her to market to sell," Jack replied. The old man stroked his beard thoughtfully. "I'll save you the trouble," he said. "I'll buy your cow myself." He reached into his pocket and pulled out 5 peculiar beans. They were large and colorful, unlike any beans Jack had ever seen. "These are magic beans," the man explained. "Plant them tonight, and by morning, they'll grow into something magnificent." Jack, being young and foolish, thought this sounded like a wonderful bargain. He handed over Milky White's rope and pocketed the beans, running home excitedly to tell his mother about his clever trade. When Jack burst through the door and told his mother what he'd done, her face turned pale with anger and disappointment. "You foolish boy!" she cried. "We needed money for food, and you've traded our cow for worthless beans." In her fury, she snatched the beans from Jack's hand and threw them out the window. "Go to bed without supper," she said, "and think about what you've done." Jack climbed the stairs to his room, his stomach growling and his heart heavy with shame. He lay in bed, listening to his mother crying downstairs, and eventually fell into a troubled sleep. When Jack woke the next morning, his room seemed strangely dark. He went to the window and gasped in amazement. Where his mother had thrown the beans, an enormous beanstalk had grown during the night. It was thicker than the oldest oak tree, with leaves as big as dinner plates, and it stretched up into the clouds until its top disappeared from sight. Without thinking twice, Jack pushed open the window and climbed onto the beanstalk. He climbed and climbed, higher than the church steeple, higher than the tallest mountain, until finally he reached the top and stepped onto a vast white cloud. Before him stretched a long road leading to an enormous castle made of gleaming stone. Jack walked toward it, his legs tired from the long climb. When he reached the massive front door, he knocked loudly. The door swung open, and there stood the tallest woman Jack had ever seen, a giantess with kind eyes. "Please, Mom," said Jack, "could you spare some breakfast? I've climbed so far and I'm terribly hungry." The giantess looked down at him with pity. "You poor child," she said. "I'd gladly feed you, but my husband is an ogre who eats boys like you for breakfast. You must leave before he returns." But Jack was so hungry that he begged until the giantess finally let him in and gave him bread, cheese, and milk. He had barely taken 3 bites when the whole castle began to shake. "Thump, thump, thump. It's my husband!" cried the giantess. "Quick, hide in the oven." Jack scrambled into the cold oven just as the giant stomped into the kitchen. He was truly terrible to behold, as tall as a house, with a wild beard and fierce eyes. "Fee-fi-fo-fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman," roared the giant. "Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Nonsense," said his wife calmly. "You smell the sheep I've cooked for your breakfast. Now sit down and eat." The giant sat and devoured his meal. When he finished, he called out, "Wife, bring me my gold." The giantess brought a large bag of gold coins, which the giant counted until his eyelids grew heavy and he fell asleep, snoring like thunder. Quietly, Jack crept from the oven, grabbed the bag of gold, and ran as fast as his legs could carry him. He climbed down the beanstalk and showed his mother the treasure. They were overjoyed. The gold would keep them comfortable for months. But Jack, being adventurous and curious, decided to climb the beanstalk again. Once more, he reached the castle and convinced the giantess to hide him. This time, when the giant fell asleep after his meal, he had been counting gold coins from a magical hen. He had commanded, and the hen laid a perfect golden egg. When the giant's snores shook the rafters, Jack snatched the hen and climbed down the beanstalk with his prize. Now Jack and his mother had a hen that laid golden eggs, so they would never be poor again. You might think Jack would be satisfied, but curiosity got the better of him once more. He climbed the beanstalk a third time. This time, he didn't even ask the giantess for help but sneaked into the castle and hid himself. After the giant ate his supper, he called, "Wife, bring me my golden harp." The giantess brought a beautiful harp made of pure gold. "Sing," commanded the giant, and the harp began to play the most beautiful music Jack had ever heard. Soon the giant was fast asleep. Jack crept forward and grabbed the harp, but as soon as he touched it, the harp cried out, "Master, master!" The giant woke with a roar of fury. Jack ran for his life, clutching the harp as the giant thundered after him. Jack reached the beanstalk and slid down as fast as he could, with the giant climbing down behind him, shaking the beanstalk so violently that Jack nearly lost his grip. "Mother, mother!" Jack shouted as he neared the ground, "Bring me the axe." His mother rushed out with the axe, and the moment Jack's feet touched the ground, he seized it and chopped at the beanstalk with all his might. The giant was still high above, climbing down, when the beanstalk began to sway. With one final chop, Jack cut through the last of it. The beanstalk toppled, and the giant came crashing down to earth with such force that the ground shook for miles around. And that was the end of the wicked giant. Jack and his mother lived happily ever after in comfort and peace. The golden hen provided them with all the wealth they needed, the golden harp filled their home with beautiful music, and Jack grew up to be a wise and generous man who never forgot the lesson of the magic beans, that fortune favors the brave, but one should always be grateful for what one has.